High top flip flops.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 87 of High Top Flip Flops. As always, I am Krish. I'm here with Navik. How are you today, Navik?
You know what? I had about 7 meetings today,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had a class, and it's just so odd, constantly seeing people through the screen. And when you're seeing people through the screen, you can't look sad or you can't look like not happy,
True.
because then they'll be like, "Oh, why aren't you happy? Why aren't you showing enthusiasm?" But in person you can, be miserable and people don't question it usually, right? In person meetings and stuff like that, they don't really say, "Hey, why isn't he looking up to par?"
True. It's
And
very true.
it's kind of the scrutiny that men face in like this kind of space,
You think so?
consistently being judged on your appearance.
You think so? You think it's a
Yeah,
men? You think it's a men only issue?
yeah, I don't think women experience
Women
it
and
at all.
non-binary people, they don't experience that judgment
No,
whatsoever.
right?
Not
Like,
at all. Not one bit.
yeah. Like when I walk down the street, I get like anti cat calls. I get like go back inside when I leave, So I'm tired of that. But Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling okay. I'm very excited to have today's guest with us as well. You know what? Given the length and the richness of your relationship to this individual, Navik, I'm going to let you introduce our guest today.
We got one of the biggest. We got one of the hottest on the scene right now. One of the hottest creators. We're
Oh,
back to, speaking with creators again.
that's
Because
right.
for a little while we didn't.
It was just Navik and and that's not content. Remember, that's just
Hmm.
thoughts.
Oh, just thoughts. And he's the hottest in every sense of the word right now. Hottest in the streets right now. Everybody's talking to him. Hottest in appearance,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And he created something revolutionary, something that we desperately needed in this world, right? And this is a time where I wish we had a soundboard, because I'd be going nuts with it.
Oh yeah.
All right. We got Mohisen of Plastic Flux here.
How's it going,
Wow.
Mohisen?
Welcome. Well, I don't know why I said welcome.
It's like
Basically,
this is my
Ooh,
I'll
podcast
take it
now.
over. No.
I like that. Take it over. This is yours now.
No, Nuvek basically flustered me, That's way too many compliments than I can handle. Um, so I don't even know how to talk anymore.
That's totally okay, that's totally okay. This is your podcast now, right? So it doesn't even matter.
Please.
You can sit in silence for 30 minutes. We can't do anything about it. but, but
No.
Mohisen, thanks so much for joining us today. We're very keen to talk to you about this idea, this business of yours. um, in short, I'm going to give the very basic overview from what we understand, and then maybe we'll have you jump into um, the more richer, fuller or explanation of what it is that you folks are doing. But correct me if I'm wrong. You folks at Plastic Flux are making furniture using exclusively recycled plastics. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Around the ball there.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So how did this come to be? Is this something that you've only started very recently? Has this been in the works for a little while?
So it's started recently for sure. I want me and my friend co-founder Hanson. We've basically been good friends since university, and we've like thrown ideas back and forth. So we've had like a couple of ideas that we wanted to work on. And we had before this, it was like we were trying to do like a coffee shop that focused on mental health. So like you can go in and talk with baristas and like stuff like that.
Mm.
But we felt like we were out of depth there, and then so we like sideboarded it for now, and then when I moved on a little bit. But I've always had a passion for the environment, my whole life. And Hanson, he enjoys like crafting things out of wood and stuff. So the issue with that is like he basically had a lot of wood that he would go through or like resin and stuff like that, and it wasn't as eco-friendly as he would like. and I wanted to find any. I'm always all about making things more eco-friendly. So we just talked over beers and stuff, and like we came upon like plastic, this whole community on recycling plastic called like Precious Plastic. And then from there, we just like try to figure it out, like, okay, what can we do with this, you know? And then we thought about what's the best way to recycle plastic so that it stays out of the landfill for the longest. So what are things that people have around their house that they tend to keep around for a long time or even resell a lot of? And that's where furniture came into the play, right?
Incredible.
And then that's where we started talking about things. And that was last September. So I think it's about almost 8 months now. We
Okay.
officially started things. Like we continued talking about it for a couple months and officially started like February of this year.
Incredible.
Amazing. Now, I looked into the message boards and I found out that is the reason that you're doing furniture because you have this deep hatred for Leon's?
Leon's and IKEA both. Yeah, you know, every now and then I like set fires to their stores. But, no, I'm joking. I'm kidding. That would be the uneco-friendly thing to do. You know, you just rob them and then biodegrade all their wood or whatever.
Incredible.
No, I'm joking. But I wouldn't say I have a deep hatred for them, but I feel like furniture is one of those things that's very versatile. You can have like so many different designs and stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be just wood or whatever. And a lot of these Leon's, I feel like I'm not too bad or at least I'm not too familiar with their furniture and how they source things. But at least with IKEA and stuff, I know a lot of people go to IKEA because it's cheap and stuff, but they tend to not last very long, and then they end up getting thrown out. They're trying to change that now and implement these strategies where they buy back furnitures and stuff, but the mentality of their customers has remained the same for the most part. So a little bit of a hatred there. But.
Of course. And the furniture that you will create will last time.
Yes. Yeah. So the idea is like we want to make it, our priority is to make it durable and look unique and nice. So that's like priority, right? And then followed up by the fact that it's eco-friendly, right? Because a lot of people, you know, being eco-friendly is cool and all, but not everyone's going to buy something just because it's eco-friendly, right? So you got to make sure it hits that category first. And we want to make it durable enough so it lasts long enough, you know, and that they can, if it looks nice enough, then they'll sell it again. So it's not like a one-off thing. They can resell it and they can continue the cycle. And at the very end, even if people aren't buying this and they're trying to get rid of it, we'll buy it back from them and we'll shred it and create another furniture piece with it. So it's a full circle.
It's incredible. Yeah, that's so cool. And I think what I like about your whole setup is that there's like opportunity for like constant shifting as well. I think with a lot of furniture, there is like timelessness that I think sometimes people really enjoy about furniture. But I'm sure Naveen could speak to this more than I can, but just in terms of design and like the history of design, particularly with furniture, that's also something that like evolves, you know? So something that I find really fascinating is that, you know, over the course of time, you could really hone in. I mean, whether that's yourselves or whether that's someone you partner with to think about how you want to design these things. As you said, even if it's like very clear that like, you know, I'm just making this up, but there's like a very specific design that people really love right now and is really, really popular. You could shift, you know, you could really shift gears if it involves, and this is something we can touch on, is the actual kind of process of how it's made, but you can shred it and start over again. That's like a really, really neat mobility that you have, right? By way of using this one material, but also this like consistently reusable material as well.
Yeah. Well, technically, to be accurate, like it's not consistently reusable.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest issues with plastic in general. There's a limitation on how many times you can recycle it, because every time you recycle it, it becomes, the quality of the material degrades. So
I see. Okay.
Typically they can only be recycled 30 times, which is why all of these like corporations and stuff will like recycle them into lower and lower tier things until it ends up in the landfill. But our idea is that want to use things that will take a long lifespan before they need to be recycled again.
Yeah, for sure.
So then they effectively make increasing their lifespan before they go to landfill.
Right.
And the secondary idea is like, if we make it long enough, eventually we'll figure out a way to make it perfectly recyclable, so it doesn't have to be degraded. And hopefully society will catch up, and then we don't have to worry about that anymore.
That's brilliant.
Okay. Yeah. Now, of course, you're doing this for the eco reasons, which is excellent. But from a furniture perspective, you must, have a good feel for, couches, chairs. What are you looking to really kind of create or make a lot of that you think, people really need?
Yeah. Our first line is going to be very focused on like coffee table and dining tables. Like, we're kind of catering towards the people who have smaller spaces. Like, let's be honest, housing prices are ridiculous right now. So everyone is gonna have to downsize, and you can't have as much stuff in there. So we're trying to like go for that kind of like unique piece, the talking piece, that discussion starter piece that they have in their house. Have like the thing with like some of these plastics is like the way you like melt them and the way you refine them, you can make it kind of look marble-esque, or you can even go all the way the other end of the spectrum where you just make it super radical with a bunch of colors and whatever and random designs. So if people want something more casual, they can go for that marble feel, or they can go for that extreme and they can have it in their small space to be like, an eye attraction of like attention or whatnot, like the focal point of a room.
That's really neat.
So I think that's what we're trying to go for the first one, like get those like eye-grabbing pieces that people want, especially if they're starting off their condo lives. That's probably like you have that one piece, and then eventually, hopefully as housing prices calm down and people move out and get bigger homes, then we'll get more of that like set of furnitures. You have like shelves and tables and then chairs as well, things like that.
Wow. And sorry, go ahead, Navik.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is it you and Hanson who are primarily coming up with the designs as well? Is that something that you work with others on, or for the most part, is it you and Hanson kind of providing full solution here?
Yeah, so like we're gonna definitely start off with us providing the full solution, but like the idea is we want to like increase the hype around plastic as a resource. We currently have like three interior designers who we're meeting up with and having discussions with. So I'm sure they can probably do a better job of designing some of this stuff than we can. We're both from the science field, so I don't know if it's the most creative field.
Right.
But as long we're gonna get it started and show that like, look, it looks awesome for a couple of amateurs, and then hopefully that'll intrigue more talented people to start using it as well, and we'll be the supplier in that case, and then work together with them as well.
Yeah, this is super exciting for designers down the road in the future, because of course you're working with these interior designers at the moment. But yeah, super exciting because they'll, I can't speak for myself, being a kind of a designer. I don't want to say that, but for a lot of other designers, their dream is to, be able to design every single thing in their home.
Yeah.
And with this, they'll be able to do it safely and have it going for decades. And, once they're done with it, give it to someone else, keep that kind of going, and eventually putting IKEA out of business.
Exactly.
We're done. We're not paying $300 for a coffee table anymore. Well, actually, I can't speak on. You know what? We're not paying $300 for a coffee table that lasts 8 months.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't cap my price there. But, for two people working out of a garage, it can be kind of expensive to compete against IKEA prices.
That's true.
We've got like these huge ass factories and like people working minimum wage and like just like streamlining
those bastards, man. They're really, truly making it so incredibly difficult for anyone else to compete.
Yeah.
I think this was a question that came my way recently. Someone was talking about self-driving cars, and they brought up, it was a conversation between me and two friends, and one of them said, I think it's about time where I need to start looking into buying a vehicle, and another friend said, don't do it. It's you're not going to need a car. It's not going to be worthwhile to own a car in 10 years because of self-driving cars, and there'll be enough cars on the road where you can get around wherever you need to so instantly, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess like the question that I asked them at the time was, how do you think that what strategy do you think these companies, I think Tesla is the big one that comes to mind, they will employ to convince the people that, in their case, it's safe, that self-driving cars are safe, that you have nothing to worry about, that like there's no human behind the steering wheel, and that you can still get from point A to point B, and the roads are going to be safe, because that's like a mass scale psychological shift that needs to take place. While I hope and don't imagine that the shift is necessarily as like large scale for you, Plastic Flux, that is still something that you need to convince people of, right? That investing in recyclable plastics, but in the form of furniture, is worthwhile. It still has as much value as, furniture that people really kind of like fawn over, like that's made of particular woods, right? Or are made of certain materials that are not necessarily renewable or are not nearly as accessible. So I'd love to know, what, where you and Hanson's kind of head is at when it comes to, how is it that you two feel that you can convince people that this is worthwhile? It's a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, that's a solid question for sure. The Tesla one is definitely an extreme example,
Extreme example,
self-driving.
for sure.
It's like, we're not putting anyone's lives in our hands with our tables per se.
That's right.
Or you never know.
Or I could be, I don't know. People are trying to build a tower out of our tables and stand on top of it.
Exactly. It's a height risk.
Yeah, I'll put that in the little font at the bottom.
The fine print, exactly.
The fine print. Convincing people is always going to be a hard part, but I think one of the fortunes that we have right now is that the generation that's coming into like the buying power right now, who are moving into homes, are like a lot of millennials, and a lot of the millennials actually understand the eco-conscious aspect of purchasing, the things to keep in mind, and understand how much of an impact we're making, a negative impact we're making on the environment based from all of our consumerism, right? Just like purchasing things unsustainably or purchasing things with short life expectancy. So there is a large trend, and in terms of just eco products in general, it's been shown that year over year, it's been increasing exponentially. So
Totally.
we see that people are understanding and coming around to it, which is awesome. And like, some people, they want that wood look, and, to be honest, we're not telling people not to do it. If that's what your heart desires, go for it, but just make sure that it's sourced responsibly. You don't have to try to make sure it's bought from people who buy like farmed wood or whatnot, or make sure that it's sustainably logged.
Yeah, and just accept the fact that you've now rid like 1,000 Canadians of like a healthy oxygen supply. It's okay. Do what you want. No, okay.
Well, I'm glad you say that. But it definitely takes it's definitely more of a negative impact on the environment for sure.
For sure. But I see what you mean. You're not in control of what people are gonna buy for, right? You can only kind of put the facts in front of them and provide this alternative solution.
Exactly. And no one's gonna ever, like, I'm not trying to pit plastic against wood, because then there's always going to be extremists who are going to be hardcore one way or the other. But if one of those extremists decides to buy one furniture that's plastic, then at least we're reducing the overall impact, right? So
exactly,
it's not one or the other, but there is much stronger environmental impact, positive impact, by use furniture from Plastic Flux and stuff.
without a doubt.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now you're currently involved in a contest so that you can gain some funding to kind of really get this off the ground. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I got good and bad news on that front. But so before we get into it, like, yeah, currently we are competing on Orbit, and it's like a contest held by Michelle. I forget what her last name is. Omanero. She's from Dragon's Den as well.
Nice.
For those of you who watch Dragon's Den, and she's basically hosting it. It's a contest where like 93 companies started off in the different rounds, and then we basically used our networks to try and get votes
Hmm.
for it. And then it got narrowed down to 10 companies in total. So Plastic Flux made it to the top 10, which I'm
Wow.
super excited about and honored. Stoked that so many people believe in us, and that's
Hmm.
motivating for sure. Um, and technically, the voting was supposed to continue on until the end, until this Friday. But once the final round started, which was on Monday, they they closed off the voting polls. Not sure
Oh
why.
man,
So
this some
uh,
this some this is I'm trying to think what U.S. election year was, but this is like Al Gore, Al Gore, George Bush shit all over again, man.
yeah. I sent them an email, and they said they'd get back to me in 24 hours about the situation. But yeah, I'm like a lot of my friends and stuff were like, I'll wait till the final round to see where you're standing and how to help you out and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
So it's a little unfortunate that they won't be able to vote, but
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man.
Wait, that's
see
so
how it goes.
strange. How long was the round open for?
So like they did like multiple rounds, so they
Oh,
had like 5 different rounds, and each one lasting about a week or so. And now we're in the final round, so we're in the fifth round right now, and that started 2 days ago.
but then
And
they just close it like.
yeah, like if you go to their site and stuff, it says like, oh, you got 3 more days of voting. But then when you go to actually vote, it says, oh, we're closed for voting. I'm like,
Oh, what the heck?
it's a little buggy of a site for sure. There's a lot of improvements, and after this competition, I'll probably send them a nicely worded email, be
Yeah.
like, hey,
You
might
should.
wanna
Yeah.
might want to get this straightened out just to
Yeah,
make the
for sure.
competition more fair and stuff. But
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That is a
yeah,
shame.
yeah.
Um,
Good
but
news,
First
top
Bernie,
10.
now
So
you.
that's right. First burn.
This world never will get better.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
yeah,
But you're right. Being selected top 10 out of, you said nearly 190 plus?
93. Yeah, I think it was
93.
93.
That is truly, truly
Yeah,
incredible.
Mhm.
And I'm sure, given how brilliant and intelligent the two of you are, I'm certain this was, you didn't put all your eggs in one basket, and you're continuing to kind of play the field. I can only imagine. I mean, that's something that I would love to hear your perspective on, is like, what, I don't want to use the word chasing, but what going after that, looking for that funding is, because, I realize that, like, it's not just one round of money. You don't just get, you know, $5 million plopped on your, I mean,
yeah,
very rarely, I imagine there's probably a few people who've struck gold in that sense, but there's rounds, there's seed rounds, there's, you're sometimes looking for angel investors to kind of swoop in. You're looking for like something called syndicates, which I've learned about, which is like multiple different people pooling their money together to
hmm
get someone off the ground. I imagine there's a lot of pitching involved. There's a lot of kind of networking and meeting people, taking meetings. Has that kind of been your experience so far? Has it been
yeah,
a lot of work just to kind of get your name out there in front of funders?
for sure. Yeah. We're like I said, we're very early on right now. I think we're probably maybe I'd say 4 or 5 months of active like funding, and like there's definitely different stages for sure in the funding. But one thing that I've learned is that you really want to take advantage of grant money as much as possible early on. So like we started off with like getting grant money from Canada Starts for 5K, which helped start up our business, and then we my co-founder Hanson, his high school actually does like pitch competitions every now and then for alumni students.
Oh wow.
So that was amazing. We were able to take away first place there and got another 10K. But
Oh, incredible.
we've basically used all of it up building the first machine
All
to
right.
like melt down the plastics into like sheets. So, easy come, easy go.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of grants is what we're trying to go for. We don't want to sell. We like once you start getting investors early on, I've heard that there's a lot of horror stories with like getting investors early on and they affect the vision of the company.
Hmm.
And that can end up with a lot of disputes, causing the company to ultimately fail, right? So we want to
Hmm.
get our roots into the ground as early as possible and try to maximize all of these grants that we can get onto. So some government grants as well that we apply to and try and get it.
Hmm.
And then various companies like Canada Starts is like funded by like Shopify and like a couple of other people as well. So we use them to get the 5K, reach out to networks, and then this Orbit thing was like another one, right? Which we're hopefully we'll still win. So
Yeah,
unfortunately, the first place gets a prize, but we'll find out this Friday,
for
see how that
sure.
goes.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, and then we're also like gonna do like Kickstarter and stuff as well to try and get more of that funding. So
For
that's like our
sure.
next step. So it's always about like continuing keeping the flow going, and the cash flow going as well. Try and get more funding early on so we can R&D more and get products out there for people to buy.
Incredible.
But yeah, after that, once we get through like that stage of like exhausting a lot of these like grants and funds and stuff, then it's going to be looking into more of getting investors on board, right? Because you're going to have to like give away a piece of the pie, and then have like more structured logistics within the company about like giving them quarterly reports and all of that. And if we do that too early on, it's going to take away from our efforts on building the company itself. So, but that's like the next step after all of these grants.
Yeah,
Mm.
makes sense. You want to make sure you know all the ingredients of your pie before you start sectioning it off. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really brilliant strategy as well.
Yeah.
Learning a lot from hearing you talk about all this because I mean, even if you think about this podcast when Vic and I first started, we really were just like, all right, let's just get a couple mics and go from there. Which I mean has
Nice.
been an incredible journey by all means, but
Yeah.
obviously stakes are a little bit different, and it's really neat to kind of hear hear your perspective and what your journey has kind of looked like thus far.
Yeah.
Uh,
The stakes may be different, but like, I think that's great that you guys started. It's all about getting started, right? Taking that first step and then building on from it there, and like, re-strategizing it every other day.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, like you said, when you got nothing to lose, baby, you could just
Do
you could
whatever.
just you could just do whatever.
True.
Um,
Mm.
I want to shift gears just a little bit here. I mean, while this is still relative to the business, I guess I'm kind of curious to peer into to maybe your own experience outside of this business. Um, but you know, everything that you've just kind of shared it in terms of the work that's kind of necessary to get things off the ground and really kind of accepting that you do have to start small and you know you spoke about even just building putting designing I imagine and engineering and then building this machine just to melt this plastic down. It's not only a process but or sorry, it's an incredibly long process, which I imagine on all fronts there is like um a lot of failure involved, a
Mhm.
lot of things not going right. And that I think is experienced and like dealt with differently by different people. Um, and I'm kind of curious to know what that has looked like or what failure has felt like for you and Hanson um, throughout this kind of journey, this 8-month journey. And if your relationship to failure has changed at all over the course of working on Plastic Flux.
Yeah. Failure is something that you definitely gotta learn to learn from and roll with. It's unavoidable for sure, especially
Mm-hmm.
at this stage. Um, like we'll see. Like so far, we are pretty early on, so there haven't been anything major, but like there's definitely things that we learn from, like anything from like relationship standpoint, like how we communicate with each other, miscommunication. One of the biggest failures is probably like discussing have contracts with like machine shops and stuff like that.
Mm.
We made a mistake of like telling them how much money we had, and then they just like dimed us up for the full amount.
Shit.
Yeah.
Those are learning points for sure.
Mhm.
Having those communications. Right now the contest that we're doing with Orbit, definitely learned a lot. Definitely, I don't know if it's a failure yet. It might be. We're still hopeful, but uh, we learned that TikTok is a great platform that one of the other teams was using, and they like both just skyrocketed.
Mm.
And it's like that's something that we probably have to get use as well. So like
For
even
sure.
though like if we do end up like not getting that first place, we still had a lot to take away from it. We can see all these other companies and how they're marketing, and then we're just like stealing their ideas and incorporating it.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So it's there's going to be failures. Obviously, the first step to do is do your research as much as possible. Like we're great that like we have the precious plastic community, and we like dig into it, and we like annoy the hell out of people
Mhm.
for sure, and try and learn from their failures as much as possible. But no matter how much you try and learn from other people's failures, you're gonna have your own, and you just gotta learn from it and move forward. Like when we found out about like the voting being closed, yeah, yesterday, we that felt like a failure as well. We were kind of upset about that because we had
Mhm.
so many strategies that we aren't able to see to completion. So
Yeah.
we just took the day off and we were just like, we're gonna feel bummed about that failure, and then we're gonna regroup and discuss how to move forward. How to roll with it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great because, your idea is so solid that you'll, you'll experience some of these failures. In this case, the system being crooked, and you can't fix that sometimes.
That's right,
Yeah,
man.
The system's just too odd for some real free thinkers like ourselves.
yeah,
And because we all, would you say you're a free thinker, Moisen?
yeah. I'm a free thinker for sure.
Think freely.
Yeah, without any chains binding me.
Oh, good
Guy's
point.
not unshackled. He's unshackled, man. His mind is unshackled.
And we, ultimately we just have to keep continuing if we have something solid and
Yeah.
great, and eventually the success will follow for sure. Now I know a lot of people are probably wondering, is Mohisan really about saving the environment? You know, and myself, to share a short anecdote, I think I was in the fourth grade, maybe fifth grade,
Mhm.
and
Oh boy.
I definitely littered. And Mohisan called me out and said, "Hey, don't litter and throw that in a trash can, recycle bin, whatever." And I've never littered since. Fun fact, by the way.
Oh.
Now, yeah, now Mohisan, let's say, for example, if you were to have a friend for the past decade, right? And you're always pushing, don't litter, don't, contribute to this destruction of our beautiful earth. But then last week you see them litter. How do you respond to something like that?
I'd probably cry, you know. Okay. Like you boys have been pretty supportive, and I like, whenever you guys tell me like, I was about to litter, but then I saw your face. They're always like, puts a smile on my face. I'm like, nice. Yeah, right?
There's
That.
an image of you burned in their minds, man. That's when you know you've gotten to them.
Yeah, that's when you know that you're actually my friends. And
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
no, so like if one of you guys were to do that, then it'd be like you forgot about me. So my face is gone. Can definitely
Wow.
be sorry. But people who I'm not as close with, then it's fine. I see them later, I'm just gonna go up and be like, I'll pick it up and then I'll throw it away. And then usually that they're like, oh shit, they feel guilty about that, and then they don't do it.
Yeah.
So, my
Yeah.
strategy there.
That's
You, know,
right.
you can't. The secret is don't say anything. Just like do it quietly, pick it up, and like they'll see it, and then it leaves an impact.
That's right. Silent but deadly, man. Uh,
Yeah, and you know what? That's how you can at least do the smallest bit of work, right?
Mhm.
because global warming is coming in full effect. There's the statistics 2048, 2042. If we don't fix it up.
I'm just laughing because it just sounds like you're just saying numbers, but I believe you. I believe you.
1921,
Yeah,
like,
Hey, to be honest, we probably were screwed back then.
that's
Yeah,
right. That's
by
right.
then.
Yeah.
Fossil fuel industry just booming,
Yeah.
That's when it all began. But
And
sorry,
it's like,
Nivek.
yeah, and it's like, what small things can we do other than, of course, not littering? What can we do?
Yeah. There's a lot you can do actually, but it's all about taking it one step at a time. It can be overwhelming to try and consider all of the things you can do at once. You know, but the first step is just try and be more eco-conscious with your purchases, right? Like it all starts from when you buy something to how you get rid of it, right? So the first step is the buying phase for sure, right? So you want to try and buy things that are more sustainable or eco-conscious, biodegradable, uh, all of those things depending on what you're buying, and then use them responsibly. Also, don't fall into society's tricks into making you buy things you don't need or buying excessively or wastefully. It hurts you financially for sure, and it hurts the environment. So trying to be cognizant of that, plan out your purchases, reduce the 5 R's as they say, like one of the most important is like reduce what you need, and that translates down to bringing down the environmental impact that you make throughout your life. But yeah, and then after that, it's like try and repair things. You don't want to just because something's not working doesn't mean it's like you throw it away. Sometimes it's as easy as fixing it. It's funny because like one time I was working in the office and the microwave was like screeching, right? And basically everyone's like, "Oh shit, we gotta get a new microwave," right? So I went there, opened up the microwave, I took off the spinning plate and then the wheel that they have underneath, rinsed it, put a bit of olive oil on the wheels, and then put it back, and then it was fixed. And
Wow.
I'm like, a lot of these people have been brainwashed. I'm not saying it's their fault, but like
Right.
society has taught them that like broke means throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth
That's
fixing.
so true.
But it's a lot of these things that you can like take a second thought, see if you can fix it or reuse it before throwing it out.
Yeah.
And then lastly,
Yeah.
throw it out appropriately. Our waste management system is definitely not perfect. Has a lot of issues. Like it's crazy. Like when I was first looking into plastic flux, like I looked at some of the stats, and I'm like, in Canada, out of all the plastic that we use, only 9% of it actually gets recycled. So like that's
Yeah.
81 as of 2016. That's when the stat was released by the government.
Right.
But like 81% not being recycled is crazy.
Yeah.
And what's even crazier is some of those things that are considered recycled are shipped to countries outside of Canada that
Mm-hmm.
recycle them, or they say, but they end up not recycling as well, because it's not worth it for them, or like they're just trying to get that pay and then they throw it away.
Right.
So there's a lot of steps, a lot of crazy things that you can do to bring down your footprint, but it's all about just taking one thing at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Like even myself, I like to think I'm eco-conscious, but then I did one of those like tests where you answer questions about like your lifestyle, where you live, your consumption, your traveling, your commuting, all of that. It tells you like if everyone in the world was to have the same lifestyle as you, what's your global impact? Like how many planets of Earth do we need? And I got like 2.5, and I'm like, damn, I felt terrible. I'm like,
Oh
thought I
man.
was eco-conscious, but even if everyone lived the same way I did, we won't
Right.
have enough planets.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And that could be that's like a frightening, well, not frightening, but I can imagine it was discouraging to kind of see that. But it's also like it also paints like just a picture of like the scale, right? Is like you said, is like even at where you're at, which as you kind of reminded us, right? You have to kind of take it step by step and you have to consider what's realistic, right?
yeah.
It, there's like, yeah, there is like you have to kind of stop yourself from being like, okay, like I need to change everything right now, right? That's also just like
Exactly.
as you said, it can just be a bit too drastic, it can be a bit unrealistic based on what you kind of have going on, you know, like
For sure.
even just thinking about living in Southern Ontario, right? Where like, I don't know, like living in like if I were to like build a treehouse or something and like live in that, like that would work for maybe 4 months, and then the rest of the year I'm kind of toast, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Silly
Yeah.
example, but just
No,
painting
no,
the
it's
picture
valid.
of like needing to, you know, I think in any case, right? Even if it's
Yeah.
like politics or like, you know, you can be like, someone could be like, oh, you know, you're not liberal enough, you know, like you could do more things, you know. That'll always be the case. But if that's how we're kind of gauging whether how eco conscious you are, right? It's not really going to help anyone by way of doing that. You're not necessarily doing a larger kind of shift of consciousness versus just being overly critical of people and then getting no one, you know, someone just
Yeah.
like spite littering at that point, just like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking litter just to piss you off, which is terrible,
Yeah.
of course.
Terrible. But I can see a couple of people doing that.
I
But no, you,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I agree 100%. Like, it's all about balancing in your life, right? Like, if you try to go extreme right off the back, then give up in a month's time, then go back to regular, then you basically haven't really made much of an impact. But if you decrease one item this week, one item next week, and so forth, in 5 years' time, you would have made a huge impact on your footprint. You'd be super conscious and it's sustainable and you'd be happy about it. You're not suffering through the transition.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Is there anything extreme that you've tried in your life that you realized, after a short time, that it was tough to sustain in terms of eco-consciousness?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say I've went super extreme so much. I guess because it doesn't feel as extreme for me because I've been doing it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically been small transitions, as
Right.
I've learned things, as I've grown up and I've learned, I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that out.
Mm-hmm.
As I was growing up, it's like, oh, meat has a huge impact. All right, I'm going to cut back on meat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned like you can grow your own foods or shop local. Then I started doing that. And it was like buy produce that's locally grown instead, decrease the impact, try and avoid buying anything made of plastic because it can't be recycled as much. Instead, opt out for glass and metal
Mm-hmm.
items, and then recently I've tried like getting rid of like plastic toothbrushes and using bamboo toothbrushes, and I've loved
Nice.
it. I think like one of the things is also like because it's part of my identity to like care about the planet, it's rewarding to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel as like a painful experience for me.
Yeah, it's not a chore.
Yeah, like I'm happy with myself whenever I like find new ways to like reduce.
Totally.
So it's a shift in that mind state a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to think of the full impact in a couple of years makes me happy. So it doesn't actually hold me back. But like I guess in the terms of the meat thing, like there's been periods where I find like no meat at all. But sometimes I like to go hang out with friends and like we like to go try new things and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. It's like meat has different. There's a whole cuisine, like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like, what's the term for like cooking styles, whatnot.
Different cuisines? Yeah.
Very,
Cuisines? Yeah, you got
different,
it.
yeah,
You got
different
it. Yeah.
cuisines for like various meat
Mm-hmm.
dishes and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's those experiences. Those are fun experiences to have with your friends.
Totally.
I'm just not gonna like cut it out and be like, yep, nope, I'm not gonna come out because then I miss hanging out with my friends, miss trying new things.
That's right.
So those are things like I've compromised on. Whenever we go out for cottages, like sometimes it's more convenient to buy like one pack of burgers that's all meat for 12 people than like to have just my own and then split up, and then it just brings so much work and it takes away and it's a hassle for other people.
Right.
So compromises for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. It's something I find myself thinking about is like, Navik brought this up earlier. There are some systems and there are machines that are much bigger than us that make things a lot harder to navigate or to feel like we have some control over, particularly, you know, when it comes to meat consumption. That's something that I think about often as well, as someone who quite enjoys consuming meat. Is, while on one hand I'm like, you know, I think reducing this is a way of kind of contributing positively. A part of me is like, this meat that I'm now seeing in the supermarket has already, you know, this animal has been killed. It's been processed and it's now been packaged. I'm not trying to say that I'm doing some sort of good by buying the meat, but a part of me also wonders, like, what happens if, you know, say the three of us and, you know, 60% of my neighborhood also decides to do the same thing? Does that meat get thrown out? Is it lose kind of either way, you know, whether we buy it and we consume it versus it just kind of getting thrown in the trash, or maybe going on discount for a couple of days and then going in the trash? Kind of get put in a situation where, as a result of how far removed we are from, you know, this is an example where it is something where we really are not in very much control over, you know. Kind of keeping those things in mind so that you don't end up just like experiencing like mass hopelessness, just being like, everything is rigged against us, this life is meaningless, we're just all gonna die by the sun, you know. It takes a lot of energy, and I think moderation has been the theme of this episode. Mohsin is a man of moderation. Truly,
Fair.
that's if there's one takeaway from this episode.
That's it is, and that's true. But would you say, you know, of course, there's the main animals. We have cow, we have goat. Do you think society should
goat is your second main animal?
Yeah, it's like, dude, where's chicken in there?
Yeah.
What about fish?
I don't know if you guys know, I'm proud and I'm Tamil. So eat a little of that goat. You know what I mean?
That goat curry, eh?
That's right.
The goat curry is quite something. Do you think society should shift its desire on meats from cow, chicken, goat to street animals such as possum, raccoon? Because then we already are disgusted by those animals. Why not just take them? What's your view?
Well, that's definitely an interesting point of view for sure. I feel like it's probably going to be easier to convince people to have vegetarian protein sources than to try and eat possum. Like, I think people will be more willing to eat more beans than have to taste a possum.
You know, Navek is down for the beans, that's for sure.
Yeah, like, you know, but you know, I think, but like in terms of like other sources of protein, like non-conventional, like insects, you know, they're pretty hot right now as well.
That's right.
Crickets, grasshoppers, they're entering the market right now. They're much more eco-friendly. But I think like the issue with that is like, I don't think people would want to need it just for the protein source. Like I get the protein source aspect of it, but a lot of people eat meat for that flavor and the texture and things like that like our body's been primed to from like generations of biology. You know, we're primed to crave those things, so it's like it goes deep. So convincing them to eat insects or more of these like leaner animals, wild animals like possums, is gonna be super hard.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, yeah, we should do that.
Hey, if people are, so I think like the general thing is like the smaller the animal gets, the more eco-friendly it is, typically. So, hey, if someone's willing to eat possum over a cow, you know, go for it, you know. And especially if you're capturing a wild, then it's like it's free range, right? Like it's lived its life, it's done its thing, and you're not really having as much of an impact as like a factory farmed cow, you know. So I'm all thumbs up there. You know, if you're gonna switch out that steak dinner for a roasted possum, that's all thumbs
Just
up.
make sure you got that herb butter. You know, that's all it comes down to. Just keep that on deck. Everything.
For all my chefs out there, it's all about the spices, right?
Yeah,
that's spices make it for sure.
It correctly, add the right spices. It's a meal.
Yeah.
Now, are you playing with vegan options at the moment? Some vegan foods here and there?
Yeah. You know, it's crazy how much the vegan food industry has grown in these last couple of years. Like, as you're probably aware of, like the big name ones like Beyond meat, which is like entering into like the fast food places, and they're amazing. Impossible Foods and stuff like that. There's also like even smaller Canadian ones, like in Vancouver. There's like something called there's a company called The Very Good Butchers, who's making like vegan ribs and vegan like roasts and stuff like that. And I think there was one in Toronto, but I can't think of its name as well. But there's a lot of vegan options coming, and a lot of them are kind of hit and miss for sure. But people are experimenting. They're trying things out, seeing what works. Um, but the amount of things that work out there is increasing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I can definitely see in a couple of years being comfortable, completely comfortable, switching to vegan. Though, so with the only asterisk being cheese. I love cheese, and I feel like that is a tough field for veganism. I feel like they can get the meats, surprisingly, the meats and the eggs are doable, and they're making a lot of progress on that. But the cheese is just not the same. It's
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah. I feel the
Cheese
same
is,
way.
it's just so delectable, gooey, works well on a sandwich, works well on a
Yeah,
charcuterie board, of course.
yeah. That
Right, such
super
a versatile
aged
food.
spoiled milk,
Mm-hmm.
can't get that.
That's right. Nothing I love more.
Yeah.
Um, Mohisen, this has been really, really great to get all your insight on plastic flux and just, I think a refresher, at least I'll say for me, in terms of thinking about eco-conscious decisions and just a little bit more intentionality, in the kind of day to day. If you'll spare us in the final few moments of this podcast, I to those who are listening, you may or may not know that correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Nivek have now known each other for 10 plus years. Is that fair to say? Over 10 years? From elementary school, or was it just high school that you two have
Yeah,
known each
I
other?
I would even say 15 years, like grade 5 or par. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible.
Mhm.
Right. That's right.
Wow.
You shifted Nivek's mind regarding littering at the tender age of 9.
Yeah.
I would love to know, have there been any unique business ideas over the past 15 years that the two of you have stumbled upon, or maybe individually, that may or may not have taken shape in that time frame? I'm very curious to know.
That's a great question. I think we should dive into that. But one last thing about like the whole eco-conscious topic that
Please.
we're having, to add on like to it being overwhelming to make all these changes. I think one thing that I strongly believe in is that if everyone takes one step together, we make a huge impact, right? So like never count yourself out for like don't think it's not worth it for buying less or recycling more or washing things before you recycle, doing that small thing. It adds up. It
Mhm.
adds up. It honestly adds up. And like with 8 billion people, like if everyone did this, we'll make a huge impact. And it's together, we're definitely stronger. But yeah,
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
cool. And now back to our bacon.
Yeah.
Did we ever talk about ideas or business ideas?
Or maybe I should rephrase. Are there any business ideas that Nivek has come to you with that you recall?
Have you? Am I terrible there? Am I forgetting?
See, the thing is, I'm quite the ideas man.
Yeah.
I come up with a lot of ideas. Only a handful have actually followed through with. So there's most likely been, over the past 15 years, most likely been about, 15 to 20 ideas that that haven't come to fruition. I'm sure there was a recycled clothing idea maybe thrown around, perhaps, or that could have just never left my head. I don't know.
That is a good idea. I'd love to talk about that.
See, that's also, something that a lot of brands are doing now. They're having the section.
Yeah.
They have two sections. One is here's how we made our clothing the most worst way, and then here's the organic, fully recycled,
sustainable
option. Which is kind of dope that they're taking those steps. Hopefully there's I mean, there probably is. I can't speak for like there's probably an existing brand that only does that.
There definitely is. And they're definitely doing it not from a good heart but more from like where the money's at right now. They're trying to
Mhm.
capitalize on that in that area as well. But it's better than nothing at the very
It's
least.
very true.
That is true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Any other ideas other than your recycling clothing?
yeah, any new ideas, Navig? And now's the time to pitch them in.
Oh, I'm just pitching ideas right now.
Yeah.
This is my this is my
With the
my
floodgates.
Shark Tank. I'm more of a Shark Tank guy,
Oh yeah.
by the way.
Not a
Okay.
dragon's den, but a shark.
Yeah, maybe it's the colors, to be honest. Like
Mm,
nobody wants to walk up in a den.
right.
We
I would rather
No.
enter a tank.
exactly, because brighter colors, it's all more fun. You get to see.
Yeah. You can see what safety looks like on the outside while you're in the tank with the sharks, about to be eaten alive. Like you can see what your life would have been like if you didn't get in the tank.
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
I know that's
I
what
like
you
that.
like about it. It's just the regret
So safe.
before death.
Yeah.
It's a fetish,
Like
I
to
just-
live life on the edge, eh?
Yeah.
Turns you on.
This guy has a regret fetish, It's just like, ugh, just crave it.
You know what? I did come up with a genius idea that you could take part in this, but Mohisan, but recycled cannabis.
Walk me through that. How does that work?
This guy wants to take all of the little ends of the spliffs, just gather them,
and reuse it.
just compact it, you press it together hard enough. It's basically a new joint.
Yeah. Or you know what? Something that's actually doable. The ends that people just toss away, instead of using some, that kind of cardboardy material, people could use like a piece of dry spaghetti. And those can be fastened to a point where once you're done, you just toss it up in the air. Biodegrades. All right.
Wait, where's the reused part?
With that, there's just,
okay.
we're just not destroying the earth a little bit.
Gotcha.
Slightly, but like this much. But sleep on the recycled cannabis idea.
Spaghetti cannabis.
Hey, I think there is some substance there. I think if you combine both of those ideas, where you like, sometimes people don't smoke all the way because filter is too harsh.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that can be recollected and turned into a new joint.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I like where we're headed with this. Let's table this.
Put a pin in it.
Wow. Wow, you really hit us with that corporate language to end the episode.
Yeah.
How could you?
Yeah, and I got that from a show. I didn't even get that from real life. Right.
No, please.
I don't have any more ideas. I just wanted to give the floor to Mohisan one last bit.
Mm-hmm.
See if he wanted to give any more raw opinions, that he may have off the top of his head.
Yeah.
Something to push the global warming date from 2048 to 2082, perhaps.
Oh man, I just went full dark, but that might be too much. I'm like, let's say if we really wanted to increase it that much, we probably just have to get rid of the humans.
Whoa. I think we should start with the billionaires. Am I
right? Right. Spread their wealth out and then get rid of.
Right.
They really got $1 billion whole dollars.
Not even, some of them are almost trillionaires, right?
Yeah.
like hundreds of billions. It's like there's this like page where they have like a pixel for like every $1 million, and then they basically show like an average person is basically like a quarter of a pixel or whatnot, and they're like in their lifetime's worth, and then so that's like on the first page, and then you scroll 300 pages, and all of that combined together is like is like Jeff Bezos. He's basically got more wealth than everyone combined, which is crazy.
Madness.
But it was also crazy because they showed us that like if they even took like 4% of their wealth and they committed it to a cause, they can resolve that cause. Like, for example, they can get rid of malaria with 4% of their wealth in all of Africa and stuff, and that will like increase their life quality significantly.
Wow.
And 4% is crazy when you think about it, because like the stock market grows, or like that grows by 7% on average. So like
Mm-hmm.
they're not even losing this money because like they'll be making
They'll
more
make
of
it
it in
back.
a year
Yeah.
than they would have spent to resolve this issue. You know, they can make crazy changes like that. If they wanted to solve global warming, you know, they could. They could basically implement perfect recycling everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
perfect water usage everywhere. Uh, yeah,
You
but,
know, somebody said in Disneyland there's a garbage can recycling bin within, every 30 feet that you're at, so there's never trash. Perhaps on the streets of the rest of the world that should exist outside of just a place where, people spend thousands of dollars.
so that is a potential solution, but I'd like to propose an alternative strategy, and that's changing the mentality on like littering. Like when you go to Japan, I've heard that apparently they don't have any trash bins in a lot of the areas. The expected behavior is that you take your trash home. You take it home and then you organize it appropriately, and then it gets recycled appropriately,
Mm.
right? So they don't need to have trash bins. They don't need to keep trash bins collected. They don't have to waste fuel on trucks going around and picking them up, and people won't like misorganize them. That's one aspect. And secondly, it's a change in mindset, right? Like if you are responsible for this trash now, you're gonna do your best to reduce trash. You know, um, people are gonna buy stuff that requires more trash because
That's right.
then they have to deal with it. But now it's like we have this mentality. It's like, oh, trash bins everywhere. Trash, whatever, throw it away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a change in mentality for sure. So I really like that. Really resonated with me when I found out about how some of these other countries do it, and like that mentality of like you're responsible for it, you take it home, you sort it, and then recycle it appropriately.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day we'll have something uh, like that in North America.
Oh,
Wait for that day. Be
Yeah.
2047, you know?
Yeah, if Plastic Flux
Hopefully,
makes me a billionaire, I will put 50% of my wealth for sure. Or no, you know what? 80% of my wealth for sure into implementing that system.
Incredible. Incredible. Well, listen, Mohisan, we're here for it. And, as your prototypes come together and as it becomes safe to start recording this podcast in person again, maybe we can make something happen to have a high top flip flops table for where we record at, made by
sure.
Plastic Flux. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But listen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Thank you so much for breaking down and representing Plastic Flux for us. I know I'm sure Hanson would have spat just as much game and truth as you did today. So appreciate you being here. It's a real shame about this voting being closed, but
Yeah.
I doubt that it's the end of things for you folks. It sounds like it's just the beginning. So we very much wish you the best of luck. I know with artists or people that we have on the show, we ask if there's any kind of social media or any kind of website that people can kind of take a look into your product. Is there anywhere in particular that some of our listeners can go to take a look to learn more about Plastic Flux?
Yeah, for sure. But before that, I'd like to say thanks for like letting me be on the show, letting me take it over by saying welcome, or taking ownership of it, giving me a chance to like talk about all these topics and about what we're doing and our visions and stuff. In terms of
Absolutely.
social media, definitely follow us either on Facebook or Instagram, Plastic Flux. You can find us there. All and give us a like, follow us, and we'll show our progress and how we're growing and our next steps. And then eventually we'll also have like our products that we're selling there as well. So if you want to check out some of the designs, we do a lot of customs as well. So like if you message out, we can do custom ordering as well, and hopefully I'll be able to get one to High Tops Flip Flops soon, as things open up.
Sweet.
And yeah, we'll have a website as well, plasticflux.ca. And hopefully soon we'll have a TikTok one, but not yet. But
Okay.
I'm sure.
Working towards it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we'll certainly post that in our description for our episode on YouTube and on our social medias as well. Yeah, man, we wish you the very best of luck, and thanks again for joining us. I'm sure this won't be the last we hear of you as the year continues.
Definitely. Thanks for having us.
Of
Okay.
course.
That's what I like to hear.
Uh,
I think Krish has to really go because he has to leave his torture chamber.
Chill out.
Jeez.
Listen, hold on. Let me turn
Yes.
on the light, man. I
Turn on a light or
I
something.
was really
Jeez.
no,
relishing.
he's trying to be eco-conscious. Like I really motivated him with my discussion.
That's
He's like,
right.
You know
I was
what?
like-
Let's try out the light.
Exactly. I'm actually powering my laptop with a hand crank underneath my desk, you know?
Nice,
Just-
like one of those foot pedals, you know?
yeah, exactly. I'm just cycling, man. I'm just getting my cardio in too. But thank you for joining us for episode 87 of High Top Flip Flops featuring Mohsin of Plastic Flux. We'll see you next time. Everyone say bye on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye.
Yeah.
High Top Flip Flops.
Trapaholics Mixtape.